so this is going to be a quick review on inequalities. We're going to go over the symbols. We're going to go over some graphing today. So to review, we should know what each of these symbols means. So we're going to start at the top one right here. This one is our greater than symbol. So this stands for greater than. Okay, when it's pointing in this direction. One way that we can use to remember this is you can think of, the mouth, right? Little mouth eats the number that is greater. The other thing that you can do is I like to use this trick to remember which one is which because both of these look really similar. And sometimes when we're reading them, it can be hard to remember. So I'm going to draw the symbol here. If we draw a little curve right here, you can see that this looks like a sideways uppercase G, a capital G. You see the G that's being formed. So this capital G stands for greater than. So capital G for greater than. Okay, because if you do it with this one, it's not going to work. So only this one forms the capital G. The other symbol, by process of elimination, is the opposite. It means less than. Okay, so if we look at the direction that this is pointing, the way that I like to remember this one is if you extend one side of it, this forms an L. This is like an uppercase L. So this capital L stands for less than. Okay, so these are two ways that I like to remember which is which. If you can form a G, it's greater. If you can form the L, it is less than. Okay, so these are our two symbols. The last thing here that we're going to talk about down here is what happens when they have this little bar underneath. So you can see that this one looks like the first symbol, greater than, has this bar underneath. And the other one looks like the less than symbol, but it has a bar underneath. When we have this line that is underneath the greater than or less than, that means or equal to. So this first one, we would read it as greater than or equal to. And this one down here, it's less than or equal to. So that means that we're including that this could be equal to a number, okay, or they could be equal. So that's what the little bar underneath means. Greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So in an example here, let's say that we had this. X is less than or equal to 3. Okay, x is less than or equal to 3. That means that x could be less than 3, right? Some numbers that are less than 3 would be like 2, 1, 0, negative 100, right? All those are less than 3, so they could be possible answers for x. But it could also mean that x is equal to 3. So x can also be equal to 3. So that means that it could also be 3. So x is less than 3 or equal to 3. So x is less than or equal to positive 3 is how we would read this statement right here. Okay, so that was a quick review on our symbols right here. Now let's try to put this into words. So we have our examples. We have this one and this one. We want to be able to read these out loud, and I'm going to write out how we would say these. Okay, so if we start on the left here, we have y. Then we need to figure out what this symbol is, if it's the greater or the less than. You can look at the notes to help you remember. This one, in this case, looks like the less than. So if we were to say this out loud, how we would say it is y is less than negative 5. So that means that we don't know what y is, but we know that it's less than negative 5. So some possible answers could be negative 6, right? That's less than negative 5. Negative 7 is less than negative 5, and it just keeps going. Could be any number that's less than negative 5. Same thing for this one. This symbol is now pointing in the other direction. This is our greater than or equal to symbol. So in this case, we have A is greater than, but wait, it also has the line underneath, so it's greater than or equal to positive 2. A is greater than or equal to positive 2. So that means that it could be greater than 2, so that would be like 3, 4, 5. But it could also be equal to 2, which means that 2 could also be a possible number, because it could also just be 2. So all of these would be examples of what A could possibly stand for. And it could keep going as well, because we could have other numbers that are greater than 2 be possible answers. Okay, the last thing that we're going to go over is we're going to go over some graphing on number lines. So anytime they ask you to graph an inequality on a number line, you're going to follow the same 2 steps every single time. So first I'm going to read the problem. Graph the inequality x is less than negative 3 on a number line. So the very first thing that I want to do is I just want to look at the number. So I just want to look at what number is in the problem right now. Right now we're focusing on negative 3. So the first thing that we have to do is locate the number, in this case negative 3, on the number line. So you'll always be given a number line, so I'm going to look for negative 3. It's right here. And this is where I'm going to draw my dot. Okay, but wait, before you draw a dot, we need to talk about what kind of dot to draw. So, if we have a normal symbol, and what I mean by that is that it's just the less than or greater than symbol. It doesn't have the line underneath. So if we have a normal less than or greater than symbol, we use an open circle at negative 3. So if we have a normal symbol, we use a open circle. So that means for this one, this is just a regular less than. So I'm going to use a open circle right here at negative 3. So open circle will just look like this. So I draw an open circle. If we have a greater than or less than with the equal to, if we have a symbol that includes the or equal to, has a little line underneath, so it looks like this, or it looks like this, has a line underneath, then we use a closed circle. Or a filled circle. So that means that instead of this open circle, we would have to fill it in. Okay, we use this filled circle. So in this case, it's a normal circle, so it's a normal symbol, so we use an open circle. I'm going to finish graphing this, and then we'll talk about why we use open circle, why we use closed circle. Okay, so I'm going to first finish graphing this because all we need to do is our last step for graphing. So our last step is to point the arrow, so draw the arrow, depending on the inequality sign. So that means that if we are drawing a less than symbol, right, this means less than, then we need to think about what direction would our arrow go if we're talking about numbers that are less than negative 3. So less than negative 3 would be these numbers, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. So we want to draw an arrow here from our little circle to show that we need to include all of these numbers that are less than negative 3. So I draw an arrow towards the numbers that are less than negative 3. If I had the other symbol, right, greater than, then I would be drawing it in the other direction because I would need numbers greater than negative 3. So depending on what inequality symbol If it's greater than or less than, I will use that to draw the arrow. A quick trick that you can use for this one, less than or greater than, is if your problem is written with the variable on the left side, like this one, where x is over here and then we have our number over here, you can always use this trick. If we have our inequality symbol, this will always follow the direction of the arrow. So if our inequality symbol is pointing this way, our arrow is going to point to the left. It looks like a little arrowhead. And if our symbol is like this, it's the greater sign, you can think about this as the arrow will go the other way. So that's a quick trick. If you just follow the direction that this little symbol is pointing. So for this case, it's pointing this way. Right? It's pointing this way. And so our arrow will also point that way. And that's a quick little rule that you can do when you're drawing your arrow. It makes it a lot easier as well. Okay, so this would be our final graph. We draw the arrow, we draw the dot, and we are finished. This is how we would graph x is less than negative 3. I told you guys I would talk really quickly about why we use open and closed circle. The reason why we use open and closed circle is because this tells us whether or not we're including our number in our final answer. So remember when we talked about when we have a less than symbol, right, less than negative 5 for this example, that is all the numbers that are less than negative 5. Versus when we have less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, we would include that number. So in this case, we have numbers that are greater than 2, but we're also including 2. So this circle, open or closed, tells us whether or not we're including something. In this case, I'm not including negative 3 as one of the answers because I need numbers less than negative 3. But if I wanted to include negative 3, if I wanted to say less than or equal to, I would use a closed circle to show that I want to include negative 3 as one of the possible answers. So open means we don't include that number. Closed means we do include that number as a possible answer. Okay, so let's look at one more example on how to graph our inequalities. So this last example here, we want to graph x is greater than or equal to 5 on our number line. And I'm just going to draw the number line really quickly here. Okay, so let's say our number line is here. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, keeps going. So, okay, let's say our number line starts this way. And then we just follow the exact same steps. So pause and do this on your own if you think you can graph it on your own first, and then come back and see the answer. I'm going to solve this really quickly now. So the first thing that we do is we want to locate our number. So 5, we want to locate that. Okay, got it. So locate our number. Next thing we're going to do is determine open or closed circle. Remember how we do that is we look at the symbol, the inequality symbol. So I'm going to write that down here. This is our symbol, right? Because this has the line underneath, the bar, which means that it is greater than or equal to. This or equal to tells us that we need to use a closed circle. Okay, anytime we have a symbol that has the or equal to. So in this case, we need to do a closed circle right at positive 5. Okay, so greater than or equal to means we use a closed circle. And then the last step is just we need to draw the arrow. I'm going to use the trick. Again, you could either think, okay, what numbers are greater than 5? That would be this way. Or you could also follow the direction of the inequality sign. Our inequality sign is pointing to the right. So I'm also going to point the arrow to the right using our little trick. So this would be how we graph this x is greater than or equal to 5 on the number line, we have closed circle. We have an arrow pointing to the right.